Ambassador Kethler stood on the bridge of his massive ship, looking at the small blue planet ahead. His golden skin shimmered under the bright lights as he smiled. This would be easy. It was always easy. How many worlds have we taken now? He asked his aide, a thin creature with purple skin named Veltar. 847, Ambassador, Veltar replied quickly. This will be 848. Kethler nodded. Every world was the same story. They would arrive, show their power, and the locals would surrender. Sometimes it took a few hours. Sometimes it took a few days. But they always gave up in the end. The bridge was filled with beings from 12 different worlds. All of them had once fought against the Empire. Now they served it willingly. That was how things worked in the galaxy. The strong ruled, and the weak obeyed. General Vexron, a massive red-skinned warrior, walked up to the ambassador. His 4 arms were crossed over his chest. The primitive humans have not responded to our message, he said in his deep voice. Should we send another? Give them time, Kethler said. Fear takes a while to set in. They need to understand what they are facing. 3 days ago, they had sent their standard message to Earth. It was simple and clear. Surrender now or be destroyed. Hand over all technology. Accept integration into the Empire. It was the same message they had sent to hundreds of worlds. On the bridge's main screen, Earth looked peaceful. White clouds moved slowly over blue oceans. Green and brown land masses dotted the surface. It looked like any other world. Nothing special, nothing dangerous. The humans call their world Earth, said Dr. Zindai, the fleet's science officer. Her insect-like features clicked as she spoke. They have been in space for less than 200 years. Very primitive. They still use chemical rockets for most of their travel. Kethler laughed. Chemical rockets? How did they even reach their own moon with such basic technology? Slowly, Dr. Zindai replied. Our scans show they have small colonies on their moon and on the 4th planet. Mars, they call it. Nothing impressive. Their largest ship is smaller than our shuttles. General Vexron growled. Why do we even bother with the message? We could take this world in minutes. Because that is not how the Empire works, Kethler said firmly. We are not barbarians. We give every species a choice. Join us willingly, or join us by force. Either way, they join us. The bridge fell quiet as they waited. Around them, 46 other ships waited in formation. Each ship carried enough firepower to destroy a city. Together, they could crack a planet's surface like an egged Commander Jake Morrison sat in Luna Station, orbiting Earth's moon. His brown hair was starting to turn gray at the edges. 20 years of military service had taught him to stay calm under pressure. But this was different. This was bigger than anything he had ever faced. Sir, we're still receiving their transmission, said Lieutenant Carol Hughes from her communication station. Her fingers moved quickly over the controls. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. The message is the same. Jake nodded. The alien message was clear enough. Surrender or die. Not much room for negotiation there. Dr. Lisa Bennett looked up from her analysis station. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a tight ponytail. I've finished studying their language patterns, she said. It's definitely a standard template. They've used this exact same message before, many times. How can you tell? Jake asked. The grammar is too perfect, Lisa explained. No hesitation, no personal touches. This is a speech they've given to other worlds, probably hundreds of them. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. How many other worlds had received the same message? How many had surrendered? How many had been destroyed? Any word from Earth Command? He asked. Admiral Cole is meeting with the President, Carol said. No decisions yet. On the main screen, The alien fleet hung in space like dark clouds before a storm. Their ships were beautiful in a cold, threatening way. Smooth curves and flowing lines that seemed to glow with inner light. They looked like works of art. Deadly works of art. Captain Ryan Walsh commanded the orbital defense platform, called Freedom Station. It was humanity's most advanced military base in space. Compared to the alien ships, it looked like a metal box with guns stuck on it, but it was home. "How many ships are we looking at?" Ryan asked his tactical officer, Lieutenant Ben Carter. 47. "Confirmed," Ben replied. His dark skin gleamed with sweat despite the cool air. "All of them bigger than anything we've ever built. The largest one is 5 kilometers long." Ryan whistled softly. 5 kilometers. That was bigger than most Earth cities. "Energy readings?" he asked. "Off the charts," Ben said. "Each of their main ships produces more power than our entire global grid. And that's just what we can detect." Ryan stared at the screen. Humanity had always known this day might come. Ever since they had reached space, scientists had wondered if they were alone. Now they had their answer. They were not alone. And their new neighbors were not friendly. "Sir," Ben said quietly, "I'm detecting movement. 3 of their smaller ships are breaking formation." On the screen, 3 alien vessels moved toward Earth's orbital space. They were graceful and fast, cutting through space like silver fish through water. "What are they doing?" Ryan asked. The answer came quickly. 3 of Earth's communication satellites simply stopped working. Not destroyed, not damaged, just turned off. The aliens had reached out across thousands of kilometers and switched them off like light bulbs. "Message from the alien fleet, Carol. Announced from Luna Station. They say this is a demonstration, to show us what they can do. They want our answer in 72 hours. Jake Morrison closed his eyes for a moment. 72 hours to decide the fate of humanity. It seemed like a very short time, but deep in space, far beyond the alien fleet's sensors, something was moving. Something large and dark and patient. Something that had been waiting for this day for a very long time. Admiral Patricia Cole sat in her office on Earth, looking at reports from around the world. Military leaders, scientists, and politicians all wanted to know the same thing. What should humanity do? The aliens were clearly more advanced. Their technology was beyond anything Earth could match. Their fleet could probably destroy every human. Settlement in space before Earth's defenses could even respond. But Patricia Cole was not ready to surrender. Not yet. Humanity had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters that should have destroyed them completely. They were still here, still fighting, still reaching for the stars. She picked up her secure phone and made a call that would change everything. "This is Admiral Cole," she said when the line connected. "Begin Operation Nightfall. It's time to show our visitors what humanity is really capable of." Far away in the cold darkness between worlds, ancient systems came to life. Engines that had waited in silence for decades began to hum with power. Weapons that existed only in classified files started their startup sequences. The aliens thought they knew everything about humanity. They were about to learn how wrong they were. 3 days passed slowly. Ambassador Kethler paced back and forth on his bridge, his golden skin now dull with frustration. No species had ever taken this long to answer. Most surrendered within hours of seeing the fleet's power. Still no response. "From the humans?" he asked Veltar for the 10th time that morning. "Nothing official," his aide replied nervously. "They are broadcasting normal communications to their colonies, acting like we are not even here." General Vexron slammed one of his massive fists on the control panel. "This is an insult. We should glass one of their cities and show them we are serious." "Patience," Kethler said, though his own patience was wearing thin. Fear works better when it builds slowly. Let them think about what we can do to them. Doctor. Zindai looked up from her scanning station. Ambassador, I am detecting something strange. What kind of strange? Keffler asked. Energy readings from the outer system, she said, her insect features clicking rapidly. Very faint. It could be nothing. Space debris hitting asteroids. Solar wind variations. Or, General Vexron demanded. Or something large is moving out there, Dr. Zindai admitted. But that seems impossible. Our long-range scans show nothing. Far beyond Neptune's orbit, Captain Steve Harrison stood on the bridge of a ship that officially did not exist. The UES Retribution was humanity's greatest secret. 1 kilometer of hardened steel, exotic metals, and technology that most humans had never even heard of. Status report, Steve said to his crew. His gray eyes were calm despite the situation. 25 years in the military had taught him to stay cool under pressure. All systems operational, Captain, reported Chief Engineer Amy Rodriguez. Her dark hair was streaked with premature gray from years of working with experimental technology. Fusion reactors at 90%, all weapon systems ready. Stealth field holding steady. How long until we reach effective range? Steve asked. 18 hours at current speed, said Navigation Officer Lieutenant Tom Bradley. We could go faster, but it might give us away. Steve nodded. Speed was not important now. Surprise was. Everything. Weapons Officer Lieutenant Ben Carter looked up from his station. Captain, I have to ask, are we really going to fight them? Their fleet could destroy every city on Earth. That's what they think, Steve said quietly. That's what everyone thinks. That's the point. Dr. Kevin Turner, the ship's chief scientist, walked onto the bridge carrying a datapad. His white coat was wrinkled from 3 days of non-stop work. Captain, the final analysis is complete. We know exactly what we're dealing with. Tell me, Steve said. Kevin activated a holographic display that showed the alien fleet. 47 ships. Standard. Galactic design. High energy output, but inefficient. Their weapons are powerful, but wasteful. Their shields are strong, but inflexible. Meaning? Amy asked. Meaning they think like most galactic species, Kevin explained. They build bigger, stronger, louder. They never learned to build smarter. Steve smiled grimly. And we did? Oh, yes. Kevin said. Humans are very good at finding better ways to kill things. We've had lots of practice. The Retribution moved through space like a shadow. Its stealth technology was beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. While other species focused on raw power, humanity had perfected the art of not being seen. On Earth, President Helen Foster sat in the White House Situation Room, surrounded by advisors and military leaders. The weight of the entire world's future rested on her shoulders. What are our options? She asked Admiral Cole. Officially? We have none, Patricia Cole replied. Our entire space fleet combined could not damage even one of their ships. If we fight them conventionally, we lose. And unofficially? The President asked. Admiral Cole smiled. Unofficially, we've been preparing for this day since 2157. The room fell silent. Everyone knew the date. It was when humanity had first detected alien signals from deep space. But few knew what had really happened. Tell them, the President said. Admiral Cole activated a wall screen that showed classified documents. In 2157, we didn't just detect alien signals. We found wreckage. 3 different alien scout ships that had crashed in our system over the past century. Ships that were supposed to be invisible to our technology. General Frank Murphy, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, leaned forward. You're saying we've had alien technology for almost 100 years? Not just alien technology, Admiral Cole said. We reverse-engineered it, improved it, made it better. While the galaxy was building bigger ships, we were building invisible ones. She pressed another button. New images appeared on the screen. Ships that looked nothing like the graceful alien vessels. These were blocky, angular, and covered in strange equipment. The Retribution-class battleships, Admiral Cole continued. 7 of them built in complete secrecy. Each one more powerful than anything else in the galaxy. Each one completely undetectable. Until we want to be seen. President Foster stared at the images. 7 ships against 47? Ma'am, Admiral Cole said quietly, 1 ship would be enough. Back on Luna Station, Commander Jake Morrison watched the alien fleet through his telescopes. They hung in space like waiting vultures, confident and patient. Sir, Lieutenant Carol Hughes called out. We're receiving a transmission from Earth Command. Put it through, Jake said. Admiral Cole's face appeared on the main screen. Jake, I need you to send a message to our alien visitors. What kind of message, Admiral? Tell them that humanity has considered their offer, Admiral Cole said. Tell them we respectfully decline. And tell them to prepare for our formal response. Jake blinked in surprise. Admiral, are you sure about this? Very sure, Commander. Send the message exactly as I said it. Jake turned to Carol. You heard the Admiral. Send the message. Carol's fingers flew over her controls. Within minutes, the message was broadcast to the alien fleet on all frequencies. On the bridge of the alien flagship, Veltar stared at his communication panel in disbelief. Ambassador, we have received a response from the humans. Finally, Kefler said, let me hear their surrender. Veltar played the message. The bridge fell silent as they listened to the simple, polite words. When it finished, no one spoke for a long moment. They ... Declined? Dr. Zendai asked in confusion. That's impossible, General Vexron growled. No species has ever declined. They must not understand what we're offering them. Ambassador Kefler felt something he had not experienced in many years. Uncertainty. In his long career, he had conquered civilizations that had mastered faster-than-light travel. He had defeated species that could control gravity itself. But none of them had ever simply said no. What do they mean by formal response? He asked. No one had an answer. Meanwhile, throughout the outer solar system, other ships were moving. The UE's Vengeance decloaked near Jupiter. The U's Justice powered up near Saturn. The U's Freedom began its approach from the asteroid belt. Humanity had been watching the galaxy for a long time. They had learned its languages, studied its technology, and understood its weaknesses. While the galaxy built an empire on fear and overwhelming force, humanity had built something different. They had built hope. And hope, as any human could tell you, was the most dangerous weapon in the universe. Captain Steve Harrison looked at the tactical display showing his ship's position relative to the alien fleet. 18 hours, he said to himself. 18 hours and they'll learn what happens when you threaten Earth. Behind him, his crew worked quietly and efficiently. They were about to face the most powerful fleet in galactic history. But they were not afraid. They were human. And humans had been facing impossible odds since they first looked up at the stars and decided to reach for them. The countdown to humanity's formal response had begun. Ambassador Kefler had grown tired of waiting. 6 days had passed since the humans had sent their strange message about a formal response. 6 days of silence from the small blue world below. This is ridiculous, General Vexron said, his 4 arms crossed angrily. We are the Galactic Empire. We do not wait for primitive species to play games with us. I agree, Kefler said finally. Dr. Zendai, target their moon. Fire a warning shot. Something to get their attention. The insect-like scientist's features clicked nervously. What kind of warning shot, Ambassador? Something impressive, Kefler replied. Show them what our main guns can do. Crack the surface. Make them understand that we are serious. Admiral Vexthari of the Hegemony Fleet nodded approvingly. Her blue skin gleamed under the bridge lights. Finally, I was beginning to think we had gone soft. Dr. Zindai programmed the targeting computer, the main cannon of the flagship, charged with enough energy to split a continent. The beam of pure. Destruction lanced out across space toward Earth's moon. On Luna Station, alarms began screaming. Incoming energy weapon. Lieutenant Ben Carter shouted. Direct hit on the lunar surface in 10 seconds. Commander Jake Morrison gripped his chair. All personnel to emergency stations. Prepare for impact. The alien weapon struck the moon with the force of 100 nuclear bombs. But instead of the expected explosion and crater, something strange happened. The energy simply vanished. Absorbed. By systems that had been hidden beneath the lunar surface for decades. What the hell? Jake whispered dot on the alien flagship. Dr. Zindai stared at her instruments in confusion. Ambassador, the energy reading shows a direct hit. But there is no damage, no crater. The beam just disappeared. That's impossible, Admiral Vexthari said. Our scanners would have detected any defensive systems. Not necessarily, said a new voice from the back of the bridge. Captain Mordock, an experienced military engineer from the Kethtani species, stepped forward. His gray skin was marked with old battle scars. If they are using absorption technology instead of deflection technology. Absorption technology? Kefler asked. Some very advanced species have developed ways to capture and store energy instead of blocking it, Mordock explained. But the power requirements would be enormous. And the humans are supposed to be primitive, General Vexron growled. Then we hit them harder. Charge all weapons. Target their homeworld. But before they could fire again, something appeared on. Their long-range sensors. Something that made Dr. Zindai's clicking sounds turn into alarm shattering. Contact bearing 27 Mark IV, she announced. Large vessel approaching at high speed. How large? Kefler demanded. Very large, Dr. Zindai replied, her voice shaking. Larger than our flagship. Much larger. On the main screen, a shape began to resolve out of the darkness of space. At first, it looked like just another asteroid. But as it came closer, its true nature became clear. It was a ship. A human ship. And it was enormous. The U.E.'s Retribution dropped its stealth field like a predator revealing itself to prey. 1 kilometer of angular, aggressive design that looked nothing like the flowing lines of galactic architecture. Where alien ships were beautiful, this was functional. Where they were artistic, this was purely military. Captain Steve Harrison stood on his bridge, looking at the alien fleet through his main screen. After decades of preparation, the moment had finally arrived. Communications, open a channel to. The alien fleet, he ordered. Channel open, Captain, Lieutenant Carol Hughes reported. Steve stepped forward, his voice calm and steady. Attention alien vessels. This is Captain Steve Harrison of the Earth Defense Ship Retribution. You are in violation of Earth space. Please state your intentions. On the alien flagship, the bridge had fallen completely silent. Every sensor was focused on the human ship, trying to understand what they were seeing. Energy readings? Kefler asked quietly. Impossible to determine, Dr. Zindai replied. Their power source is completely unlike anything in our databases. The energy signature doesn't match any known technology. Chief Engineer Amy Rodriguez looked up from her station on the Retribution. Captain, I'm reading massive energy buildup from several of their ships. They're preparing to fire. Let them, Steve said calmly. Shields? Shields are for ships that might get hurt, Amy replied with a slight smile. We won't need them. The alien fleet opened fire. 47 ships unleashed enough destructive power to turn a planet's surface into molten glass. Energy beams, plasma bolts, and exotic weapons that could tear apart molecular bonds all converged on the human battleship. The crew of the Retribution watched the light show approaching their ship. Dr. Kevin Turner activated his recording equipment to study the alien weapons. Fascinating, he said. Very crude, but effective against normal targets. The weapons struck the Retribution's hull and simply dispersed. No explosion, no damage. The exotic human armor absorbed the energy and converted it into power for the ship's systems. That's not possible. Admiral Vexthari whispered on the alien flagship. Captain Steve Harrison opened the communication channel again. That was impressive, he said politely. Now let me show you our mining equipment. He turned to Lieutenant Ben Carter at the weapons station. Ben, target that asteroid at bearing 187, the one about city-sized. Aye, Captain. Target. Locked. Fire when ready. The Retribution's main weapon was not a gun in any traditional sense. It was a device that humanity had developed for breaking apart asteroids for mining. It worked by convincing matter that it would prefer to be energy. Instead, a thin beam of barely visible light touched the asteroid. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the space rock, along with the perfect sphere of space around it, simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not vaporized, just gone. The energy from the converted matter flowed back into the Retribution's power banks. On every alien ship, emergency. Alarms began screaming. Their computers tried to calculate the energy output of the human weapon and failed. The numbers were too large. The power requirements exceeded the total energy output of their entire fleet. What kind of weapon was that? General Vexron asked in a hushed voice. Captain Mordak stared at the empty space where the asteroid had been. That wasn't a weapon, he said slowly. That was a tool, a mining tool. Dr. Kevin Turner's voice came over the communication channel, explaining helpfully. That was our standard asteroid processing system. We use it to gather raw materials for construction. Very efficient. Converts matter directly to energy with 98% efficiency. Ambassador Keffler felt something cold in his stomach. If that was their mining equipment, what did their actual weapons look like? As if reading his thoughts, more contacts began appearing on the alien sensors. One by one, human ships decloaked throughout the solar system. Each one was different in design, but all shared the same angular, purposeful look. All radiated the same impossible energy signatures. How many? Keffler asked. 17 confirmed contacts, Dr. Zindai reported. Possibly more. Our sensors cannot penetrate their stealth technology effectively. Captain Steve Harrison's voice came over the communication channel again, still polite and calm. I should mention that this represents about 1% of our defensive fleet. The rest are on patrol or stationed at our other colonies. General Vexron's four fists clenched. He's bluffing. He has to be bluffing. But Captain Mordak was studying the sensor readings more carefully. Look at the construction, he said. Look at the materials. These ships are not built for show. They are built for war. Real war. The kind of war that destroys everything. On the Retribution, Chief Engineer Amy Rodriguez reported to Captain Harrison. Sir, I'm detecting massive power fluctuations throughout their fleet. Several ships are preparing to retreat. Let them, Steve said. We're not here to fight. We're here to talk. He opened the communication channel one more time. Ambassador. Keffler, I believe it was? I think it's time we discussed terms. But this time, we'll be discussing your surrender to us. The alien bridge fell silent. For the first time in galactic history, a primitive species had turned the tables completely. The hunters had become the hunted. Ambassador Kethler looked around at his crew. Fear was written on every face, regardless of species. They had come here expecting easy conquest. Instead, they had found something that changed everything they thought they knew about the galaxy. "Open a channel," he said quietly. "Request immediate negotiations." The age of galactic dominance was over. The age of humanity had begun. Ambassador Kethler had never felt fear like this before. His golden skin had turned pale as he stared at the human ships surrounding his fleet. Each alien vessel was now outnumbered and outgunned by enemies they could barely understand. "Sir," Veltar whispered, "what are your orders?" Kethler looked around his bridge. General Vexron sat in shocked silence, his 4 massive arms hanging limp at his sides. Dr. Zinai clicked nervously as she tried to make sense of sensor readings that violated everything she knew about physics. Admiral Vexthari stared at her tactical displays, watching red warning. Lights flash across every system. "Open a communication channel to the human ship," Kethler said finally. "Request immediate negotiations." On the Retribution, Captain Steve Harrison received the alien transmission with calm satisfaction. "Patch them through," he told Lieutenant Carol Hughes. Ambassador Kethler's image appeared on the main screen. The proud, arrogant leader who had arrived 6 days ago was gone. In his place was a being who finally understood how badly he had miscalculated. "Captain Harrison," Kethler said, his voice carefully controlled, "I believe there has been a misunderstanding. Perhaps we can discuss the situation like civilized beings." Steve smiled slightly. "Of course, Ambassador. I'd be happy to invite a small delegation aboard my ship. Say 3 representatives? I think you'll find our accommodations quite educational." Kethler swallowed hard. Boarding the human ship meant putting himself completely at their mercy. But what choice did he have? "Very well. Myself, Dr. Zinai, and Captain Mordock will come aboard." "Excellent," Steve replied. "We'll have a shuttle ready for you in 1 hour." The alien shuttle that approached the Retribution was a thing of beauty. Flowing lines and graceful curves that seemed to dance through space. It looked like art come to life. The human shuttle that met it looked like a flying brick with engines. But as the aliens quickly learned, appearances could be very deceiving. Dr. Kevin Turner met the alien delegation in the Retribution's docking bay. His white lab coat made him look harmless enough, but the technology surrounding them told a different story. "Welcome aboard," Kevin said cheerfully. "I'm Dr. Turner, the ship's chief scientist. Captain Harrison asked me to give you a quick tour before your meeting." Ambassador Kethler looked around the docking bay with growing amazement. The walls were made of materials he didn't recognize. The air itself seemed to shimmer with energy fields. And everywhere he looked, he saw technology that shouldn't exist. "Your ship is quite impressive," Captain Mordock said carefully. The scarred veteran had fought in dozens of battles, but nothing had prepared him for this. "Thank you," Kevin replied. "Though I should mention that the Retribution is actually one of our older designs. We built her almost 15 years ago." Dr. Zindai's insect features clicked rapidly. "Older design? How is that possible? Your technology is centuries ahead of anything in the galactic database." Kevin led them down a corridor lined with viewing windows. Outside, they could see the human ship's inner workings. Massive engines that seemed to bend space around them. Weapon systems that looked like they belonged in a physics textbook rather than on a warship. "Well," Kevin said conversationally, "humans have always been good at building things to kill other things. We've had lots of practice over the centuries." They passed through several sections of the ship. Each one demonstrated technology that made the aliens' most advanced systems look primitive by comparison. Force fields that could stop any weapon. Computers that thought faster than biological brains. Materials that were stronger than anything nature had ever produced. How? Dr. Zindai asked finally. How did you develop all this without any contact with galactic civilization? Kevin stopped and turned to face them. That's an interesting question. You see, we did have contact with galactic civilization, just not the kind you might expect. He led them to a large window that looked out into space. In the distance, they could see the alien fleet still surrounded by human ships. About 100 years ago, Kevin continued, we started finding things. Wreckage from ships that had crashed in our system. Ships that were supposed to be invisible to our primitive sensors. Ambassador Kethler felt his stomach drop. Scout ships, he whispered. Exactly, Kevin said. 3 different species had sent scouts to study us over the years. But human space is more dangerous than it looks. Asteroids, radiation storms, gravity wells that can tear apart ships that aren't designed for them. Captain Mordock understood immediately. You reverse engineered the technology. Not just reverse engineered, Kevin corrected. We improved it. You see, most galactic species think in very predictable ways. You build bigger, stronger, more powerful. But humans ... Humans think differently. They continued the tour, passing through engineering sections where Chief Engineer Amy Rodriguez was working on systems that seemed to ignore fundamental laws of physics. She waved cheerfully as they passed, as if casually breaking the rules of the universe was just part of her daily routine. We learned early that bigger isn't always better, Kevin explained. Sometimes smarter is better. Sometimes sneakier is better. And sometimes you just need to find a completely different way of doing things. Dr. Zindai stared at a device that appeared to be creating energy from nothing. This violates the conservation of energy, she said. Not really, Kevin replied. It just gets the energy from somewhere else. Somewhere your scientists haven't discovered yet. They reached the bridge, where Captain Steve Harrison was waiting for them. The human command center looked nothing like the artistic bridges of galactic ships. It was all function and no form. Every surface was covered with controls and displays. It looked like it had been designed by people who expected to fight for their lives. Ambassador, Steve said, rising from his command chair. Thank you for coming. I hope Dr. Turner's tour was enlightening. Very much so, Kethler replied carefully. Captain, I must ask, if you have had this technology for so long, why reveal it now? You could have continued hiding, and we would never have known. Steve walked to the main viewing screen, which showed the standoff between the 2 fleets. Because hiding was never the plan, Ambassador. We've been watching your empire for decades, learning your languages, studying your methods, understanding your weaknesses. Admiral Vexthari appeared on the screen as a hologram, transmitted from her ship. Her blue skin was pale with shock. Captain Harrison, my government has authorized me to negotiate our withdrawal from this system. That's very reasonable, Steve replied, but I'm afraid withdrawal isn't enough anymore. What do you mean? She asked. Steve turned back to the alien delegation. You see, we know what you do to the worlds you conquer. We've read your history. 847 civilizations destroyed or enslaved. Billions of beings dead or living under your rule. Captain Mordock nodded slowly. He had participated in many of those conquests. The memories were not pleasant. Humanity has a problem with bullies, Steve continued. We always have. And you, Ambassador, represent the biggest bullies in galactic history. Kethler felt the trap closing around him. What do you want? Complete surrender, Steve said simply. Your entire fleet will return to your home systems and inform your governments that the galactic balance of power is changed. Any future aggression against human colonies or our allies will result in swift retaliation. Allies? Dr. Zindai asked. You have allies? We will, Steve said with a slight smile. I imagine quite a few of your former victims will be interested in protection from a species that can actually provide it. President Helen Foster appeared on the bridge via hologram, transmitted from Earth. Ambassador Kefler, she said formally, Earth hereby rejects your demand for surrender. Instead, we offer you a choice. Leave our space peacefully and spread word that humanity is now a galactic power, or face the consequences of continuing this aggression. Kefler looked around the human bridge. Every face was calm and confident. These were not the expressions of beings making empty threats. These were the faces of people who had already won and were simply waiting for their enemies to realize it. How many ships do you really have? He asked quietly. Captain Harrison walked to a tactical display that showed the local area of space. Red dots appeared, scattered throughout the region. Hundreds of them. This is just our local defense fleet, Steve said. Our main battle groups are stationed at the edges of the galaxy, keeping watch for external threats. We've been building. For 100 years, Ambassador. Building and waiting and preparing for the day when the galaxy would finally notice us. The aliens stared at the display in stunned silence. The red dots represented more firepower than the entire galactic fleet. Combined, my government will never accept this, Admiral Vexthari said from her ship. Then your government will learn the same lesson every bully eventually learns, President Foster replied. There's always someone bigger and stronger waiting in the shadows. Ambassador Kefler closed his eyes. 847 worlds, hundreds of billions of beings under imperial rule. And now, all of it threatened by a species that had been dismissed as primitive savages. I will need to contact my superiors, he said finally. Of course, Steve replied. Take all the time you need. We're very patient. We've waited 100 years for this conversation. We can lie. Ambassador Kefler stood in the communication room of the Retribution, staring at a screen that showed the Galactic Council chambers. 12 species leaders looked back at him from across thousands of light years. Their faces showed everything, from disbelief to outright panic. Repeat your report, Ambassador, said High Chancellor Veximer of the Hegemony, his blue skin darker than usual with stress. Kefler took a deep breath. The humans refused our integration offer. When we attempted to demonstrate our power, they revealed technology that surpasses anything in our databases. Their single ship defeated our entire fleet without taking damage. That's impossible, snapped General Kefter of the War Council. 47 ships with enough firepower to glass a planet, and you're telling me primitives with chemical rockets. Defeated you? They don't have chemical rockets, Kefler replied quietly. They never did. That was just what they wanted us to see. Through the window of the communication room, he could see human crew members working calmly at their stations. Chief Engineer Amy Rodriguez was explaining something to Dr. Zindai, who listened with the desperate attention of someone trying to understand technology that was centuries ahead of her own. Ambassador, said Science Coordinator Melfara, her insect features clicking nervously. You mentioned that they have been watching us. For how long? Nearly a century, Kefler answered. They have recordings of our conquest of the Valderi system. They know about the destruction of Kepler-7. They have been studying us like we study primitive insects. The council chamber fell silent. The Valderi conquest had been classified at the highest levels. The destruction of Kepler-7 was known only to the inner circle of government. If the humans knew about these events, they had intelligence networks that penetrated to the very heart of galactic civilization. Captain Steve Harrison entered the communication room, followed by President Helen Foster's hologram. The human leaders looked relaxed and confident. as if they were discussing trade negotiations rather than the fate of galactic civilization. Council members, President Foster said politely, I'm Helen Foster, President of Earth. I believe Ambassador Kethler has explained our position, but I wanted to address you directly. High Chancellor Veximer leaned forward. President Foster, surely we can reach some accommodation. The galaxy is vast. There is room for both our civilizations. I agree completely, Helen replied. But the days of conquest and forced integration are over. Any species that wants freedom from imperial rule will receive humanity's protection. You cannot protect an entire galaxy, General Kefter growled. Captain Harrison stepped forward. Actually, we can. Would you like to see our fleet? Deployments? A new holographic display appeared in the council chamber, showing the galaxy from above. Red dots began appearing throughout the spiral arms. Hundreds of dots, then thousands. These are our current patrol positions, Steve explained calmly. We've been building ships for 100 years, building them in secret, in hidden shipyards throughout human space. Each dot represents a battle group capable of defeating your largest fleets. Science Coordinator Mel Thara stared at the display with growing horror. How many ships do you have? Enough, Steve replied simply. Dr. Kevin Turner appeared on screen from the Retribution's laboratory. Behind him, alien scientists and engineers were studying human technology with the desperate fascination of drowning people reaching for life preservers. Council members, Kevin said cheerfully, I've been explaining to your representatives how human technology works. The principles are actually quite simple once you understand them. He held up a small device that looked like a crystal cube. This is a standard human power cell. It produces more energy than your largest fusion reactors, runs for approximately 50 years without maintenance, and costs about $12 to manufacture. The council members looked at each other in stunned silence. $12. Their most advanced fusion reactors cost billions and required constant maintenance. The secret, Kevin continued, is that we learn to work with the universe instead of against it. While you were building bigger hammers, we were learning to reshape reality itself. Admiral Patricia Cole appeared via hologram from Earth Command. Her uniform was crisp and her expression was serious. Council members, I want to be very clear about humanity's position. We are not interested in conquest. We are not interested in empire. We are interested in peace. And if we refuse? High Chancellor Veximer asked. Then you will learn why every human child knows the story of David and Goliath, Admiral Cole replied. Sometimes the smallest stone can bring down the largest giant. On the bridge of his flagship, General Vexron watched human ships moving through space with impossible grace and speed. Ships that appeared and disappeared at will. Ships that seemed to ignore basic laws of physics. Sir, his aide whispered, what are your orders? Vexron had spent his entire life as a warrior. He had conquered dozens of worlds, defeated enemies, who fought with desperate courage. But this was different. This was like trying to fight the laws of nature themselves. Stand down all weapons, he said quietly. Prepare for withdrawal. Throughout the alien fleet, similar orders were being given. Admiral Vextari stared at her tactical displays, watching human ships that could destroy her entire force without breaking stride. Captain Mordock studied sensor. Readings that told him everything he thought he knew about warfare was obsolete. Back on the Retribution, Ambassador Kethler was preparing his final report to the Council. The words came slowly, each one driving home the magnitude of what had happened. Council members, he said, I recommend immediate acceptance of human terms. We are not dealing with a primitive species that got lucky. We are dealing with a civilization that has been preparing for galactic contact for over a century. They know our weaknesses better than we know ourselves. Dr. Zindai appeared beside him, her insect features clicking with excitement despite the circumstances. Chancellor, I have seen their technology. They don't just break the rules we thought were universal. They have written new rules that we never imagined were possible. What are you saying? Science Coordinator Melfara asked. I'm saying that if they wanted to, they could conquer the entire galaxy in a matter of months, Dr. Zindai replied. But they don't want to. They want something much more dangerous to our way of life, which is, they want to set an example. They want every oppressed species in the galaxy to know that resistance is possible, that bullies can be defeated. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The Galactic Empire had been built on the idea that resistance was futile. That superior technology and overwhelming force always won in the end. But humanity had just proven that wrong. President Foster's voice cut through the silence. Council, members, we're offering you a choice that no one has offered you before. The choice to change. To build a galaxy based on cooperation instead of conquest. On protection instead of oppression. And if we choose to maintain our current system? High Chancellor Veximer asked. Captain Harrison answered, his voice calm but carrying an unmistakable edge. Then you'll discover that humans are very good at removing obstacles to peace. We've had thousands of years of practice. The vote was unanimous. For the first time in galactic history, the Council voted to accept terms dictated by their intended victims. 6 months later, Ambassador Keffler stood on the observation deck of the human diplomatic ship UES Harmony as it approached the galactic core. Around them, ships from dozens of species traveled in convoy, all heading to the first Galactic Peace Conference. The Valdari, freed from imperial rule, had sent their entire surviving fleet. The Kefri had overthrown their imperial governors and declared independence. Throughout the galaxy, species that had been conquered centuries ago were rising up, inspired by the knowledge that humanity stood behind them. Strange how quickly things change, said Captain Lisa Parker, the Harmony's commanding officer. Her brown hair was streaked with gray, but her eyes were bright with hope. Not so strange, Keffler replied. Fear is a powerful force, but hope is stronger. Through the viewport, they could see the construction of humanity's first galactic embassy, a massive space station that would serve as neutral ground for all species. Around it, human ships maintained a peaceful but unmistakable presence. Galaxy was learning a new lesson. The species that had perfected the art of war had also perfected the art of peace, and they were willing to fight to protect both. Dr. Kevin Turner appeared on the observation deck, carrying a data pad full of research notes. Ambassador, you might be interested to know that we've started sharing some of our basic technologies with the newly independent worlds. Food production, medical advances, clean energy. Just the basic technologies? Keffler asked with a slight smile. Kevin grinned. Well, we don't want to overwhelm anyone. But yes, just the basics. The advanced stuff stays with us until the galaxy proves it can handle the responsibility. As the Harmony approached the galactic core, signals began arriving from throughout the spiral arms. Reports of human ships arriving to protect threatened worlds. Stories of imperial fleets withdrawing rather than face humanity's wrath. News of species declaring independence for the first time in their recorded history. The age of galactic empire was truly over. The age O.
The Galactic Empire set its sights on Earth. They got one warning. Lieve Allison Wright stared at the screen in front of her, her hands gripping the edge of the table. The blinking red dots moving toward Earth's solar system weren't meteors or space debris. They moved with purpose, with intent. How long until they reach Mars? She asked. The young technician beside her swallowed hard. 36 hours, Commander. Whatever they are, they're fast. Allison nodded, her mind racing. After 20 years in the Air Force, She had been appointed to lead the newly formed Earth Defense Initiative just 3 months ago. Most people thought it was a waste of resources, a symbolic gesture to calm public fears after strange signals were detected from deep space. No one, including Allison, expected actual contact so soon. Alert all EDI bases worldwide, and get me the Secretary General. As the technician hurried away, Allison looked back at the screen. Humanity had always wondered if we were alone in the universe. In 36 hours, they would have their answer. Captain Ethan Carter watched the stars from the observation deck of the Watchdog platform. The experimental space station was Earth's first true orbital defense system, equipped with railguns and missile systems that most politicians didn't think would ever be needed. His second-in-command, Lieutenant Adam Clark, floated up beside him. "Commander Wright is requesting we go to full alert status." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Because of those objects approaching Mars?" "Yes, sir. They're calling it First Contact Protocol." Ethan's heart skipped a beat. After years of training for a moment no one truly believed would come, it was finally happening. "Sound General Quarters. I want all systems online and weapons hot in 30 minutes. As the alarm blared throughout the station, Ethan took one last look at the peaceful Earth below. He wondered how much longer it would stay that way. Dr. Samuel Ross hadn't slept in 48 hours, but he'd never felt more awake. The government helicopter had picked him up from his small university office without warning. Now he stood in the heart of the EDI command center, surrounded by military personnel who suddenly wanted to hear his theories about alien life. "Dr. Ross, what should we expect?" Commander Wright asked, gesturing to the screen showing the approaching fleet. Samuel cleared his throat. "Based on their formation and speed, they're clearly an advanced civilization with faster-than-light travel. Their ships maintain perfect spacing. That suggests either highly advanced AI or incredible precision in navigation." "Hostile or friendly?" a general asked from across the room. "That's impossible to say," Samuel replied honestly. "But consider this. They're approaching in a wedge formation. On Earth, that's traditionally a military formation." The room fell, silent as his words sank in. Commander Wright turned to the communications officer. "Any response to our greeting message?" "No, ma'am. We've broadcast on all frequencies, but they remain silent." Samuel watched the dots on the screen. His life's work validated in the most terrifying way possible. They might not communicate the way we do, or they might simply not be interested in talking yet. The visitors announced themselves 3 days later, not with a message but with action. Their massive ships emerged from what appeared to be tiers in space near Jupiter's orbit. Earth's telescopes captured images that were broadcast to stunned populations worldwide. Enormous vessels that dwarfed anything humans had built, sleek and dark against the backdrop of space. In the White House Situation Room, President Olivia Warren sat surrounded by her advisors as Commander Wright presented the latest information. "We count 87 ships in total. The largest is approximately 15 miles long. Their technology is beyond anything we've developed." "Have they made contact?" the president asked. Almost in answer to her question, every screen in the Calcom room flickered. Every television on Earth, every computer, every phone, all displayed the same image. A humanoid figure with gray-blue skin and eyes too large for its narrow face. "People of Earth," it said in perfect English. "I am High Marshal Craxtall of the Galactic Empire. Your world has been selected for integration into our domain." The room erupted in whispers, but everyone fell silent as the alien continued. "We offer you the opportunity to join our empire as a protectorate state. Your resources will serve the greater glory of the empire, and in return you will receive protection and technological advancement. The alternative is resistance, which will result in your elimination." The message ended as abruptly as it had begun, leaving a simple countdown clock on every screen. 48. On the Watchdog platform, Captain Carter and his crew watched the massive ships with a mixture of awe and dread. "Sir, I'm picking up unusual energy readings from their fleet," Lieutenant Clark said, pointing to his monitor. "Their shields seem to fluctuate at regular intervals. Ethan studied the readings. After years of testing experimental defense systems, he recognized patterns. In technology, it's almost like they're recycling energy, like a pulse. Could that be a weakness? Clark asked quietly. Maybe. Keep recording all data and send it directly to Dr. Winters at EDI Research. Ethan turned back to the viewport, watching the distant shapes of the alien ships. And pray we never need to use it. The world's leaders gathered virtually as the countdown reached 24 hours. The debate was heated, with many nations favoring immediate surrender. They clearly possess technology centuries beyond our own, the British Prime Minister argued. Fighting would be suicide. But we can't just give up our world without knowing what integration truly means, Commander Wright countered. She had been invited to advise the president during the crisis. Dr. Ross has analyzed their message. The term protectorate is concerning. Dr. Ross stood before the world leaders, uncomfortable in the spotlight but determined to be heard. In Earth history, protectorate status was often a polite fiction for exploitation. They mentioned our resources specifically. President Warren leaned forward. What are you suggesting, Doctor? I believe they want Earth itself, our minerals, our water, possibly even our biological diversity. Not an alliance. Silence fell over the meeting as his words sank in. We need more information, President Warren finally said. We'll send a diplomatic team while continuing preparations for defense. Let's pray it doesn't come to that. As the meeting ended, Commander Wright received an urgent message from Captain Carter. His team had discovered potential vulnerabilities in the alien ship's defensive systems. It wasn't much, but it was something. Allison looked up at the stars, visible through the command center's skylight. In 48 hours, humanity would either begin a new chapter as part of a galactic community or fight for its very existence. Either way, nothing would ever be the same again. The Galactic Empire set its sights on Earth. They got one warning. Leave Patricia Gomez adjusted her uniform one last time before boarding the shuttle. As Earth's chosen diplomatic envoy, she carried the fate of humanity on her shoulders. A career, diplomat with 20 years of international negotiation experience. She had never imagined her skills would be tested against beings from another world. Remember, Ambassador Gomez, Commander Wright said, gripping her arm. Your primary mission is to gather information. The longer we can keep them talking, the more time we have to prepare. Patricia nodded. I understand. And if their intentions truly are hostile? Wright's face hardened. Then get back here as quickly as you can. The small team of diplomats, scientists, and linguists boarded the shuttle. As they lifted off toward the massive alien command ship waiting in Earth's orbit, Patricia watched her home planet grow smaller below. The blue marble that had always been humanity's only home now seemed terribly vulnerable. Jack Miller wasn't supposed to be in the EDI headquarters. 6 months ago, he had been facing federal charges for hacking into government systems. Now he sat at a terminal in the heart of Earth's Defense Command, surrounded by military personnel who eyed him with suspicion. Anything yet? Commander, Wright asked, approaching his station. Jack shook his head. Their systems are like nothing I've seen before, but he pointed to lines of code on his screen. There's something weird here. Their communication protocols have similarities to our own, almost like they've adapted their systems to interface with ours. Is that good or bad? Could be both, Jack replied, running his hand through his messy hair. It means they've studied us for a while, but it also means there might be ways to get into their systems that they haven't anticipated. Commander Wright studied the young hacker. You have 48 hours to find a way in. The fate of our world might depend on it. As she walked away, Jack turned back to his screen. He'd spent his life breaking into systems everyone thought were impenetrable. This was just the ultimate challenge. Patricia's first glimpse of the inside of the alien vessel took her breath away. The corridors were vast, with ceilings that rose 30 feet high. The walls pulsed with soft blue light that seemed to follow their movement. An alien figure approached, similar to the one from the broadcast, but smaller. I am Sub-Commander Velthar, it said in accented but clear English. I will escort you to the meeting chamber. Thank you, Patricia replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "We appreciate your willingness to meet with us." The alien made a gesture that might have been a nod. "The Empire is always generous with new acquisitions." Patricia noticed how the alien hesitated before the word generous. As they walked through the massive ship, she observed everything: the other alien species working in various chambers, the technology, and especially the way some aliens seemed to flinch when Empire officers passed by. In the meeting chamber, they faced Grand Strategist Mockstar, a taller, more imposing figure than Velthar. His skin was darker gray and elaborate markings covered his face. "Ambassador Gomez," he said without preamble, "we are pleased you have come to discuss the terms of Earth's integration." "We've come to learn more about what integration means," Patricia responded carefully. "Earth has many questions about the Empire and what becoming a protectorate would entail." Mockstar made a sound that might have been a laugh. "It is simple. Your world has resources we require. Your people will help extract those resources. In exchange, you will receive Imperial protection and limited access to certain technologies." "And if we refuse?" one of Patricia's team asked. The alien's large eyes narrowed. "That would be unfortunate. The Empire has integrated thousands of worlds. Some required more persuasion than others." Throughout the meeting, Patricia noted how Sub-Commander Velthar seemed uncomfortable, almost flinching at certain statements from his superior. When the meeting ended, he escorted them back toward their shuttle. As they passed through an empty corridor, Velthar suddenly stopped and looked around nervously. "Ambassador," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "What they are not telling you, integration means the end of your civilization. I have seen it before." Patricia froze. "Why are you telling me this?" "My world was one of the first they conquered centuries ago. We wait for a chance to break free." His large eyes darted around. "Your planet has something they want badly. Not just resources, but also your biology. Do not trust them." Before Patricia could ask more, other aliens approached, and Velthar resumed his formal demeanor, leading them silently to their shuttle. Chendi saw. The Watchdog platform. Captain Carter and Lieutenant Clark worked tirelessly to understand the alien fleet's defensive capabilities. "There it is again," Clark said, pointing at the energy readings. "Every 82 minutes, their shield grid goes through a recycling phase. For just under 3 seconds, there's a drop in coverage here." He pointed to a specific section on the largest ships. Carter nodded. "It's not much, but it's something. If we could time a concentrated strike during that window." "Even so, our weapons might not be powerful enough," Clark said. "Maybe not yet," Carter replied. "But Dr. Winters has been working on something that might change that equation." In a secured lab beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Lisa Winters hadn't slept in days. The physicist had been tasked with weaponizing Captain Carter's observations about the alien shields. Around her, a team of scientists worked frantically to modify Earth's missile systems. "The frequency modulation is key," she explained to General Paul Diaz, who had come to check on their progress. "If we can hit their shields at exactly the right moment with precisely the right electromagnetic pulse, we might be able to create a cascading failure in their defense grid." "Might?" the general asked. "It's the best chance we have," she replied honestly. "Their technology is centuries beyond ours, but sometimes, the more complex a system is, the more vulnerable it can be to unexpected disruptions." When Patricia Gomez returned to Earth, her face was ashen as she briefed the world's leaders on what she had learned. "They don't want an alliance," she explained. "Based on what I saw and what Velthar told me, integration means stripping our planet of resources, including biological resources, which I believe means us. Other species I saw on board appear to be enslaved." President Warren's face was grim. "Then diplomacy has failed." Commander Wright stepped forward. "Not entirely, Madam President. We've gained valuable intelligence, and Jack Miller has made a breakthrough." All eyes turned to the young hacker, who looked uncomfortable in the high-level meeting. "Their communication systems have backdoors," he explained. "I think I can get in and disrupt their fleet coordination, at least temporarily." And Captain Carter has identified a weakness in their shields, Wright continued. Dr. Winters is developing weapons that might exploit it. How long do we have? The president asked. They've given us 24 hours to accept their terms, Patricia said. President Warren looked around the room at humanity's best hope, a commander, a hacker, a diplomat, and scientists fighting to understand alien technology. Then we have work to do. What's our response going to be? Commander Wright's voice was firm. One word, leave. The Galactic Empire set its sights on Earth. They got one warning. Leave. The alien's face contorted with what might have been amusement when he received Earth's message. High Marshal Crusade had conquered hundreds of worlds for the Empire. None had ever responded so defiantly to an ultimatum. They said what? He asked the communication officer. One word, High Marshal. Leave. Crusade made a sound that resembled laughter. How interesting. Perhaps these humans will provide more entertainment than I expected. He turned to his weapons officer. Prepare a single destroyer for a punitive strike. Target their largest military installation. Let's show them the cost of defiance. On his private channel, Crusade sent a message to Emperor Zorkrath himself. My Emperor, I have found a species worthy of your attention. They refuse our generous offer and choose to fight. The Emperor's reply was swift. Show them the price of their pride, then bring me specimens. General Paul Diaz stood in the underground command center, surrounded by officers from every nation on Earth. For the first time in human history, all military forces had united under a single command structure. They're moving, announced a young radar technician. One ship has broken formation and is heading toward Earth. This is it, General Diaz said grimly. All defense systems ready. Activate the shield. Around the world, people watched the skies with dread. Some prayed, some hid, some stood in open fields to witness whatever came next. Dr. Lisa Winters held her breath as she activated the planetary defense shield. The technology, reverse-engineered from what they had learned about the alien ships, was untested and incomplete. It might cover only 30% of the planet, and even then, no one knew if it would work. Shield generators online, she announced. Power at 70% and holding. On screens around the world, people watched as a faint blue shimmer appeared in the atmosphere above North America, Europe, and parts of Asia. The alien destroyer entered Earth's atmosphere with a sound like thunder. It positioned itself above the North American continent and powered up its weapons. A beam of intense red light shot toward Washington, D.C. It never reached its target. The shield flared brilliant blue where the weapon struck. For a moment, the beam seemed to push through, but then it dissipated entirely. In the command center, a cheer went up. The shield had held. They'll try again, Dr. Winters cautioned, and the shield won't last forever. Jack Miller's fingers flew across his keyboard. The moment the alien ship fired, he activated the program he had built to infiltrate their systems. The distraction of the attack was exactly what he needed. I'm in, he announced to Commander Wright, who stood behind him. Their security is adapting quickly, but I've managed to plant the virus. On his screen, alien text and symbols scrolled rapidly. He couldn't read them, but he could see his virus spreading through their network. What exactly will it do? Wright asked. Create chaos, Jack replied with a grim smile. It's altering navigation data, scrambling communications, and corrupting weapon targeting systems. Not permanently, but enough to buy us time. Aboard the Empire's command ship, alarms blared as systems began to fail. What is happening? Crusade demanded. Unknown, High Marshal, a panicked officer replied. Systems are malfunctioning across the fleet. Communications are compromised. Impossible. These primitives cannot have the technology to affect our systems. But the evidence was undeniable. Across the fleet, ships were reporting errors. 2 smaller vessels had even collided when their navigation systems failed. Crusade slammed his fist on the control panel. Isolate all systems. Purge the networks. His crew scrambled to follow orders. He received another message from Emperor Zorkrath. Your report claimed these humans were primitive. The Emperor's voice was cold with anger. Yet they possess shield technology and cyber warfare capabilities. Explain your failure. Crackstool had no explanation to offer. Major Nicole Johnson had never expected to go to space, let alone board an alien vessel. Yet here she was, leading a team of Special Forces soldiers on a stealth mission to capture an Empire scout ship. Target in sight, her second-in-command whispered through the comm. The small alien vessel hung in low orbit, crippled by Jack Miller's virus. Its crew was busy trying to restore systems, which made it the perfect target, using experimental stealth. Suits developed by Dr. Winters, Nicole's team approached the ship in a modified shuttle. They locked onto the hull and cut their way inside using plasma torches. The alien crew was caught completely by surprise. Within minutes, Nicole's team had secured the vessel with minimal bloodshed. "Command, this is Major Johnson," she reported. "Target acquired. We're bringing home a new toy for Dr. Winters to play with." In her lab, Dr. Winters could hardly contain her excitement as she examined the captured scout ship. "This is incredible," she told General Diaz. "Their shield technology works on principles we theorized but couldn't implement. And look at this." She pointed to what appeared to be the ship's main power source. "It's some kind of fusion reactor, but it operates at frequencies that make it vulnerable to specific electromagnetic pulses." "Can we use that?" the general asked. "Absolutely. If we can modify our missiles to emit the right frequency when they detonate, we might be able to create a cascading failure in their shields." Fleet Admiral Gaxmore was not pleased to be summoned from the Empire's Central Fleet. Being sent to clean up Crackstool's mess was beneath his station. "The situation is unacceptable," he told his officers as they prepared for hyperspace jump. "These humans have embarrassed the Empire. We will crush them quickly and completely." "What about the Emperor's order to collect specimens?" asked his second-in-command. "We'll take what we need," Gaxmore replied coldly. "The rest can burn." Emperor Zorkrath rarely took personal interest in conquest operations. The Empire added dozens of worlds each year without his direct involvement. But something about this Earth situation intrigued him. "Show me these humans again," he commanded. His personal attendant displayed images captured from Earth's broadcasts and communications. "Fascinating," the Emperor murmured. "So physically unremarkable. Yet they've managed to resist our initial force. Perhaps they will make worthy servants after all." He turned to his daughter, Empress Tsavri, who stood silently nearby. "Watch this conquest carefully, daughter. It will be educational to see how Admiral Gaxmore handles these unusual primitives." "Yes, father," she replied, her eyes fixed on the images of Earth. "Though I wonder if primitive is the right word for a species that has already bloodied our nose." On Earth, preparations continued day and night. Dr. Winters' team worked frantically to modify missiles with the new technology. Jack Miller refined his virus to be even more disruptive. Major Johnson trained more teams for boarding operations. In the command center, Commander Wright received the news she had been dreading. "Ma'am, we're detecting hundreds of new ships entering the solar system. This isn't a punitive strike anymore. This is a full invasion fleet." Wright's face hardened. "Then we'll just have to show them that humans don't surrender easily. Get me General Diaz and the President. It's time for Phase 2. The Galactic Empire set its sights on Earth. They got one warning. Leave Admiral William Hayes stood on the bridge of the USS Defiant, Earth's first starship built with reverse-engineered alien technology. Just 3 weeks ago, it had been an ordinary aircraft carrier. Now it hovered in Earth's orbit surrounded by 80 smaller vessels hastily converted into space fighters. "Status report," Hayes ordered, his voice steady despite the knot in his stomach. "Empire fleet approaching, sir," his tactical officer responded. "Current count is over 500 ships. They'll be in weapons range in 20 minutes. Hayes took a deep breath. Humanity's first space fleet against an armada from the stars. The odds were impossible, but they had no choice but to fight. "All ships, battle formation," he commanded. "Remember your training. Hit and run just like we practiced. Don't stay in their sights for more than 10 seconds. On the screens, the Empire's vast fleet approached like a swarm of metal locusts. At their center was a vessel that dwarfed all others, the command ship of Fleet Admiral Gaxmore, Lieutenant Kelly Martinez climbed into the cockpit of her fighter with hands that trembled slightly. 3 weeks ago, she had been flying F-35s. Now she was piloting a spacecraft equipped with alien technology. "Eagle Squadron, check in," she called to her pilots. One by one, the 12 pilots of her squadron responded. Like her, they were all adjusting to technology they barely understood. "Remember, everyone," Kelly said as they launched from the hangar bay of the Defiant. "Use the new shields to get in close, fire your modified missiles at their power cores, and get out fast. Don't get greedy." As her fighter cleared the hangar, Kelly saw the Empire fleet filling the viewport. Her mouth went dry at the sight, but she pushed down her fear. "Eagle Squadron, form up. We go on Admiral Hayes's mark." On the Watchdog platform, now partially repaired after the first attack, Captain Ethan Carter monitored the approaching battle. "Charging. Main cannon," Lieutenant Clark reported. The Watchdog's railgun had been modified with Dr. Winter's new technology. In theory, it could punch through an Empire destroyer's shields, if they timed the shot perfectly. "Target the nearest destroyer," Carter ordered. "Wait for the shield fluctuation." The platform's sensors tracked the energy patterns of the alien vessel, watching for the 3-second window when its shields recycled. "Ready. Ready." Clark counted down. "Now." The railgun fired with a thunderous vibration that shook the entire platform. The projectile, traveling at nearly 30 times the speed of sound, crossed the distance in seconds. It struck the destroyer exactly as its shields flickered and went straight through. The alien ship shuddered, then exploded in a brilliant flash. "Direct hit," Clark shouted. Carter allowed himself a brief smile. "Reload and find the next target. We just proved Dr. Winter's theory works." Grand Admiral Vex Corps watched with disbelief as one of his destroyers exploded. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his tactical officer. "These humans had no space fleet 3 weeks ago." "They appear to have adapted our technology, Admiral," the officer replied nervously. "The captured scout ship must have provided them with more information than we anticipated." Vexacor's face darkened with rage. "No primitive species has ever defeated the Empire. Launch all fighters. Destroy their fleet." Beside him, Empress Tsavri observed silently. Her father had sent her to witness this battle as part of her military education. So far, it was not proceeding as expected. "Admiral," she said quietly, "these humans seem unusually adaptable." "A temporary advantage, Your Highness," Vex Corps assured her. "They have surprised us once. It will not happen again." The space around Earth erupted in battle. Empire ships launched thousands of fighters that swarmed toward Earth's modest fleet. Admiral Hayes watched his tactical display with growing concern. The hit-and-run tactics were working. Lieutenant Martinez's Eagle Squadron had already destroyed 3 enemy vessels, but the sheer number of Empire fighters was overwhelming. "Sir?" his communications officer called out. "We're losing ships fast. Beta Wing is completely gone." Hayes clenched his jaw. These weren't just dots on a screen. They were men and women he had trained with, friends he had known for years. "Pull." "Our forces back to defensive position 2, he ordered. "Concentrate fire on their lead ships." The USS Defiant shook violently as enemy fire struck its shields. "Shields at 60%, someone reported. Hayes knew they couldn't hold out much longer against these numbers. Their only hope was Dr. Collins' weapon. In his laboratory deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Ben Collins worked feverishly to complete the final adjustments to his device. The EMP disruptor was Earth's last hope, a weapon designed to exploit the weakness in the Empire ship's power cores. "Power levels stable," his assistant reported. "Frequency modulation locked in." Collins nodded. "Begin final countdown. Alert command that we're ready." The massive device hummed to life, drawing power from every source available. If it worked, it would emit a precisely tuned electromagnetic pulse that would cascade through the Empire fleet, disrupting their power cores. If it failed, Earth would fall. On the Watchdog platform, Captain Carter received a priority message from Earth. "Sir, Dr. Collins reports the EMP disruptor is ready to fire. All our ships have been ordered to pull back behind the moon." Carter quickly relayed the order to the remaining Earth vessels. All stations, this is Watchdog. Fall back immediately. Operation Blackout is commencing. He watched as Lieutenant Martinez's Eagle Squadron made a final attack run, then turned to retreat. But enemy fighters swarmed around them, cutting off their escape route. Eagle Squadron, this is Watchdog, Carter called urgently. You need to clear the area now. Kelly's voice came back, strained with effort. Trying, Watchdog, but we're surrounded. Eagle 3 is down. Eagle 7 is hit bad. Carter made a split-second decision. Lieutenant Clark, target those enemy fighters. With everything we've got, give Eagle Squadron an exit route. But sir, if we divert power to weapons, our shields will fail. Do it anyway. The Watchdog platform's remaining weapons blazed to life, cutting through the enemy fighters surrounding Eagle Squadron. One by one, Kelly saw the path opening before her. Eagles, follow me, she ordered, pushing her fighter to its limits. Head for the moon maximum speed. As they fled, she glanced back to see the Watchdog platform taking heavy fire, its shields failing. Captain Carter, get out of there, she called. His calm voice replied, Just doing our job, Lieutenant. Now go so. It's not wasted. Kelly watched in horror as multiple Empire destroyers concentrated fire on the platform. There was a brilliant flash, and then the Watchdog was gone. With tears streaming down her face, she led her remaining pilots to safety behind the moon. Dr. Collins received the signal that all surviving Earth ships were clear of the battle zone. Now or never, he muttered, and pressed the activation key. The EMP disruptor fired, sending an invisible wave of energy toward the Empire fleet. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then, one by one, the Empire ships began to falter. Their lights flickered. Their weapons went silent. On his command ship, Grand Admiral Vexicor watched in disbelief as his fleet lost power. What is happening? He demanded. Some kind of energy wave, his science officer replied frantically. It's disrupting our power cores. As systems failed around him, Vexicor turned to see Empress Tsavri watching him with cold eyes. It seems these primitives are full of surprises, Admiral, she said. Before he could respond, the bridge exploded around them. The Galactic Empire set its sights on Earth. They got one warning. Leave 3 months after the battle, President Olivia Warren stood at a podium before the newly formed Earth Alliance. Representatives from every nation watched as she addressed them and the billions viewing around the world. Today marks a new chapter in human history, she said, her voice strong despite the exhaustion etched on her face. The Empire's forces have retreated from our solar system. Earth stands free but changed forever. Behind her stood Commander Wright, Admiral Hayes, and the other military leaders who had survived the battle. Many seats remained empty, monuments to those who had given their lives to protect Earth. We have paid a terrible price, the President continued. Cities lie in ruins. Millions have been lost. But humanity has done what the Empire thought impossible. We have defended our home. She gestured to the wall behind her, where a simple plaque had been installed. It bore a single sentence. The Galactic Empire set its sights on Earth. They got one warning. Leave. And now, President Warren said, we must look to the stars not with fear, but with determination. The Empire will return. We must be ready. John Rivers had been a history teacher before the invasion. Now he led a team of volunteers helping to rebuild Chicago after an Empire destroyer had crashed into the city center. Careful with that beam, he called to the workers using alien technology to lift wreckage. We can save the hospital if we're gentle. All around him, humans worked alongside the few alien defectors who had chosen to side with Earth. The technology, salvaged from crashed Empire ships, had accelerated rebuilding efforts, allowing them to accomplish in days what would have taken months. A young woman approached John, her face smudged with dirt, but her eyes bright with purpose. Mr. Rivers, we found survivors trapped in the subway tunnels. The alien scanning tech helped us locate them. John nodded. Get Dr. Patel's medical team down there right away. As she hurried off, John looked up at the sky. Before the invasion, he had rarely thought about what lay beyond Earth's atmosphere. Now he couldn't look at the stars without wondering what else was out there, both threats and potential allies. In a secure facility beneath Geneva, Dr. Samuel Ross and Dr. Lisa Winters led a team studying Empire technology. The captured vessels had yielded incredible advances in medicine, energy production, and space travel. The hyperdrive is the key, Dr. Winters explained to Ambassador Daniel Garcia, who had been appointed to lead Earth's outreach to other worlds. Based on our analysis, we can build a working prototype within 6 months. And this will allow us to travel to other star systems? Garcia asked, studying the holographic display. Not just travel, we can reach the worlds the Empire has conquered, Dr. Ross added. According to the data we recovered and what Sub-Commander Velthar has told us, there are dozens of enslaved species who would join us against the Empire. Ambassador Garcia nodded thoughtfully. A coalition of the oppressed. The Empire has made many enemies. Perhaps together we can stand against them. We'll need allies, Dr. Winters agreed. The Empire has thousands of ships, hundreds of worlds. They'll be back and they'll be angry. Emperor Zorkrath was indeed angry. In 5,000 years, the Empire had never suffered such a defeat. The loss of nearly 200 ships and the death of Grand Admiral Vex Kor had sent shockwaves through Imperial society. How did primitives with no space travel defeat an Imperial battle fleet? He demanded of his advisors. No one had a satisfactory answer. Only his daughter, Empress Zavri, who had survived the destruction of Vex Kor's command ship, spoke with clarity. They adapted, Father, she said, her voice still hoarse from smoke inhalation. They took our technology and improved it. They found weaknesses we didn't know existed. They united their entire world against us. The Emperor considered her words. You admire these humans. I respect them, she corrected. They should not have been able to resist us, yet they did. That merits study, not dismissal. Zorkrath turned to his war council. Prepare the Central Fleet. We will crush these humans and make an example of them. But for the first time in his long reign, he saw doubt in the eyes of his commanders. Sub-Commander Velthar, now officially an ally of Earth, worked tirelessly with Ambassador Garcia to establish contact with other subjugated worlds. The Trilaxians will join us, he reported during a strategy meeting. They have been waiting for centuries for a chance to break free, and the Durrani have already begun sabotaging Empire shipyards in their system. Commander Wright nodded. How many ships can they provide? The Trilaxians have hidden away nearly 50 vessels over the years. The Durrani can offer technical expertise rather than ships, but most importantly, they both have detailed knowledge of Empire defense systems and patrol routes. A rebellion is spreading, Ambassador Garcia added. News of Earth's resistance has reached dozens of worlds. The Empire has always maintained control through the belief that they cannot be defeated. We have shattered that belief. Lieutenant Kelly Martinez, now Captain Martinez, led the first test flight of Earth's new hybrid fighter. The sleek vessel combined human design with Empire technology, resulting in a ship faster and more maneuverable than anything in the Imperial fleet. Phoenix Squadron, check in, she called to her pilots, a mix of humans and aliens from 3 different species. As each pilot reported ready, Kelly felt a swell of pride. After the battle, she had spent weeks mourning those lost, especially Captain Carter and the crew of Watchdog, who had sacrificed themselves so her squadron could escape. Now she flew with their memory driving her forward. Begin test sequence, she ordered, pushing her fighter into a steep climb. The ship responded instantly, soaring into the upper atmosphere with ease. As Earth fell away beneath her, Kelly saw the first of humanity's new defense platforms taking shape in orbit. Built with recovered alien technology, these stations would form a protective ring around the planet. Phoenix leader to command, she reported. The new fighters perform better than expected. We're ready for deep space trials whenever you give the word. On Earth, President Warren and the leaders of the Earth Alliance gathered to commission humanity's first true starship, the EAS Defiance. Built from the ground up with recovered technology, it would carry Ambassador Garcia and his team to meet with their new allies. As the sleek vessel rose from its construction bay, Commander Wright stood beside Dr. Ross, watching with a mixture of pride and concern. Do you think we're ready for this? She asked softly. Just months ago, we had never left our own solar system. Dr. Ross smiled. We've always been ready, Allison. Humans adapt. It's what we do best. As the Defiance hovered, above them its engines glowing with energy no human had understood just months earlier, Wright couldn't help but agree. The Empire thought they found an easy conquest, she said. Instead, they created their worst nightmare. The Defiance turned its bow toward the stars and accelerated smoothly upward, humanity's first ambassador to the greater galaxy. Behind it, Earth prepared, not just to defend itself, but to take the fight to the Empire. The warning had been delivered. Now it would be enforced.